Now we're starting. Hey, yo, welcome to Two Sides to the Story podcast with me, Derek Travis, and whoever I want to be my guest. This podcast is talk about dualities, explore ideas, blah, blah, blah. Ideally, make us and the audience have thoughts they may not have had otherwise. I'm joined by my brother Marshall. Yo. And, we're just going to talk. I got a couple things written down, unless there was something you wanted to start with at all.
You're the host, man.
All right. Well, then let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
And, okay. So, we were talking earlier. We were supposed to have another guest on today. Who is calling us right now? Hold on, put that bitch on speaker.
Oh, you know what? We're gonna get him. That's so funny.
Sure. Yeah.
Wait, go back.
Yo!
Dude.
Motherfucker. You're being a part of the podcast that you didn't even know. We just started recording like 30 seconds ago, and then you called.
Okay,
cool.
On the podcast right now?
Yeah. We literally started recording
right now.
30 seconds ago.
So we were about to jump into our introductory point, but you called.
Yeah.
And so we're putting everything on hold for you right now, so it better be fucking good.
The introductory point was me saying we were supposed to have a third guest.
I feel like I could be a great influencer, bro.
Yeah, why didn't you come today then?
Yeah.
God.
Because, bro, it's too much publicity. I try to keep it low key, bro.
Okay, yeah.
I want to be an influencer, but I don't really want to be known.
Got it. Two sides of the same coin.
Low-key
Low-key influencer. Okay, so what's up? What's going on? What is the purpose of your outreach?
Just wanted to update you, right?
Okay, on what thing?
Somebody's coming over later, to pregame with me.
Oh.
Names, not saying names.
Oh yeah. The first Noel, the angels just say, yeah, as in Noel of the Christmas entity or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Who's that? I don't even know who that is.
That's all right. You didn't grow up going to church. It doesn't matter.
Noel is a club that's very specifically against lesbians. Just Noel at all.
Literally.
Or it could be a team for only Charlie Sheen guys who just win, who never take an L.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. You're on fire.
No, but yeah, I called somebody and they said I wasn't chopped, like, in the face, so that felt good.
Good. So yeah. So when she says, no, I'm not going to fuck you, that's just because you're hanging out for the first time and she doesn't want to seem like a hoe. But if she's coming back, she's keeping the option open, though she doesn't want to say she's keeping the option open because that makes her seem fickle and unreliable and a hoe is not respectful whatsoever. So she's putting on this delusion that she's not a hoe. She's not fickle. She doesn't change her mind like a girl changes clothes, and she doesn't PMS like a bitch you would know. So, so just take the background, take the chill, sit back, kind of like the whole body posture of like a guy who's leaned back, kind of like taking up space. Is not worried about anything. So just take that posture and hang out, vibe with her. Don't try to fuck her. Just try to match her vibe, and you will fuck her.
I wasn't going to, bro. She's cool people. I just need, like, bro, to be honest.
I'm cutting that
I
part.
feel like that's my next step in life. Just not like falling off, but like this is part of the come up, right, man?
How about not? Because we're gonna go to a club later, and we don't want.
Yeah, you're right. I need my face.
Yeah, you need your face, and so let's go just with like a moderate amount of alcohol, and I'm gonna say a moderate for you because moderate amount of alcohol. It's called a pregame because it's what you do before the game.
Well, as we all learn, moderates are the ones to hate the most, right?
Yes. Moderate. It's moderate because you're pre-gaming. During the game, you take it from moderate to intense, and once you have baddies in the bag, you take it from intense to extreme. In that order. You don't go straight to extreme, otherwise you're not going to bag any baddies. Except for the absolute trashy, stupid ones. Which is just... No. Don't take... No, I'm gonna retract that statement. It's not just the trashy, stupid ones. Because so you're gonna just moderate for the pregame, intense for the game, extreme for the after party. And after party is once you have baddies in the bag. Okay?
Okay.
So no, I mean whatever. At least until the game. At least until the game, and especially while it's not at my house. Cool.
So your brain don't function.
All right. I'm gonna hit up.
You get any shout out for the audience here?
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs.
Agreed.
Yeah, fuck bitches, get money.
Be faithful.
Faithful to what?
Women, man.
Faithful to women in general? Uh-huh.
Yeah, treat them with
Respect all women. Believe all women.
Okay.
We do
Please,
not
somebody touch my penis.
disrespect women around here, and we don't do drugs.
Mm. Okay.
Wait, say it again one more time, just for clean audio.
We don't disrespect women around here. We don't do drugs.
Absolutely none.
Hallelujah, brother.
Hallelujah,
All right.
hallelujah. All right, bro. I'm gonna catch you.
All right. See you later.
All right.
Well, what a nice little cameo. What a nice little cameo.
So that guy was the dude who was supposed to be joining us today, but instead ditched us to go to the gym. Ugh.
Well, no, he just didn't want to come.
Oh, okay. Well, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, he just didn't want to come. Hey, it's 12:34. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, nice.
I'm not superstitious exactly, but
Just a little stitch.
But I like, just
but
little stitches. What?
23.
At the center of 12:34 is 23.
Yeah, because 23 is the center of everything.
Yes, not the meaning of life though. It's 42.
Obviously.
Anyways, we're gonna get into our introductory point.
Yeah, so the point was, I was going to bring up the gentleman who just called us because we were talking to him earlier.
Yes.
To basically tackle, the general concept is what I could call playing to your stereotype, or playing the stereotype. I don't know exactly what you'd say, but picking a stereotype kind of because you don't have a personality yourself, or you're trying to figure out what your personality is, and then just kind of creating your entire personality around the stereotype. A little bit about the cliche of somebody who's like, I mean, it's fine to be gay, but I don't want them to make it their whole personality. And for some reason I said that in a gay tone. But you could put that about anybody. Like, somebody who's a guy, maybe an angry young white gentleman who's graduating high school, doesn't have a purpose in life, not sure what they want to be, just joins the army just to see. And then decides to join the army, and then like, okay, this is who I am. I'm going to go all out. I'm going to listen to country music. I'm going to whatever. Everything I'm going to talk about is guns and ammo and all sorts of whatever. Like, basically, this stereotype could be about just about anybody, but the idea is, and not saying this is a bad thing per se, this is less a bad thing if you're younger than if you're older, which could go into another point, but essentially, when you're young, obviously you're trying to figure out who you are, so playing to a stereotype may not be a bad thing, because, like, you might as well figure out, hey, I want to get a fully realized version of myself as this, to figure out if I like this, if this is something I want to be, if this feeling inside me of maybe I should be like this is a legitimate one or not. And for me, an example I did was, like, growing up, a lot of people thought maybe I was supposed to be a girl, or thinking I'm kind of gay, just because I'm more feminine than most males in general. And obviously in male circles, you can easily get shit on for that. Not saying, once again, not saying it's a bad thing, not a good thing, whatever. But what I did in college is I did a photo shoot where I basically did a photo shoot of me fully realizing my girl self. I had my lesbian best friend, who happened to also be my weed dealer at the time, come with me to Goodwill to pick out girl
same
clothes.
mom, same dad. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, to pick out some girl clothes and like some relatively cheap makeup and stuff, and have her do the makeup for me and all that jazz. Basically made me look as feminine as possible, put on feminine clothes, and then do girlish postures and do pictures of it too. And it worked, because the goal was I want to make a fully realized version of my female self, to know what that looks like and have it like exemplified, an example of it, and just clearly laid out to be like, that is my feminine right there. So, the point it was to say, by fully expressing my feminine side, I became more comfortable in my masculine side. And I feel like that is something you could do with anything, like the example of guy with no purpose graduating high school who just joins the army to find something, maybe they could go in and be like, oh, you know what, I really like this, and they become super patriotic, they become very pro-military. Or something I found interesting with my brother here, growing up, seemed very much a pro-military, whatever guy, and then joining the army is, not saying you're anti-military per se yet, but joining the military instead of making it more like enforcing the rah-rah, hoo-ah type mentality, the like brought to you courtesy of red, white, and blue thing, you almost became like, oh, as being a part of this, I'm kind of realizing the flaws in this system. I'm not saying it's a bad system, needs to be completely destroyed, but I thought you were going to go full blinders on, this is all 100% perfect, and it more became a moderate stance of, oh, this is a necessary thing, but there's clear inefficiencies, which can go into some other topics we've been talking about, but that's my handoff to you.
Yeah, got it. So we're in a lot of different directions there.
I know, it was
and I had
playing
like
up to a stereotype, finding
pin,
stuff about yourself.
points, which point do I grab from first type of thing.
That's right down.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go back from the beginning. My first thought was you said stereotype and I was thinking archetype. And then I was like, what is actually the difference between an archetype and a stereotype? Because I thought an archetype was, here's just Google definition. I thought an archetype more or less referred to a particular type of person, but a stereotype can be used, so they're pretty well synonymous. So an archetype is a very typical example of a certain person or thing. The book, but this is the example. The book is a perfect archetype of the genre. A stereotype is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. And then the thing right here, the stereotype of a woman as the carer. I think they mean caregiver. So that's like a caregiver. So is a caregiver a stereotype or is it an archetype? I think it's kind of like the same thing. The nuance is that a stereotype is oversimplified.
And also it says held but fixed. So not only oversimplified, but like it's not. It's also rigid. Like it's not open to like interpretation.
I suppose so.
Like how, for example, the archetype of the providing male, like over time has probably changed, or the archetype even of like the ideal male has changed over time. From you need to be the father, the provider, the whatever, to now being like, yes, that too, but you also should be emotionally available.
Like how that would be the stereotypical male, but not exactly the typical male. So the reason we're even talking about this is because this morning I came to work and my buddy Trent, who's fresh out of the army, like not National Guard, fresh out of active duty army, like less than a year ago, just got out of like a year and a half long relationship, which is for 22 years old is kind of like a big deal, I suppose. And he's like he's saying all these things of like, oh, I'm just realizing, he like little interjections here and there intermittently of like, I'm just realizing how much freedom I have now, all the things that I couldn't do before, or whatever. And now he's like trying to seriously overcompensate by getting on like gear and trying to work out as much as possible. And he's like just really unsure about himself, trying to be as powerful as possible. And he's just like, oh, I just need to fuck somebody or whatever. And all this emotional and hormonal like volatility. And I'm like, he's not even a person right now. He's just an archetype. An archetype of like an aimless young man who just got out of the military and now doesn't have a purpose. Got out of a relationship, doesn't know what his purpose is. Also, archetypally, didn't really have any strong parental influence. And therefore, the influences he had were less than morally upright. And trying to figure out where the fuck he belongs, where he could even derive value from. And so therefore it's like muscles, pussy, alcohol. Blue Mountain State, Blue Mountain State character right there.
Oh, what's the main guy in that? Chad or Chadius or something like that?
I'm sure it's Chad. Yeah. It's always Chad.
It's gotta be Chad.
But anyways, that's just kind of it's like funny but also kind of like sad, but at the same time just like a part of growing up as like an individual. And I lost the other pins because so let's jump into the military thing. I wouldn't even say that I'm a moderate to that, because kind of like the whole principle of like elite operators. Let's just say like a Green Beret, or just back to like the idiom of like a pen is mightier than the sword, if idiom is the right word. Nope, it's not, because an idiom is something basically that represents something completely different, like somebody's pushing up daisies. Like obviously they're not literally pushing up daisies, they're dead. But that would be like just the saying, whatever.
Also, like, idiom, metaphor, symbolism, they all seem like very, very slightly different versions of the same thing.
Yeah, like archetype and stereotype. Anyways, so that's why it's important to be careful of what you say, because the way you speak is the way you think. We'll address that later. Pin over here. But the pen is mightier than the sword in the way that, by and large, like, ground troops are pretty much cannon fodder. They suck resources. They all need to be fed. They all need to be armed. They all need to be taken care of. They all need to be housed. All this stuff. And you have it's also that economic principle of like the 80-20 rule, like 80% does 20% of the result, and 20% does 80% of the result, or gets 80% of the result, kind of thing. And like two diplomats sitting down in a room and come to terms of agreement to try to reduce collateral damage and make peace is just as well, not, excuse me, can create the same result with so much less bloodshed and waste of life and resources than like a full-fledged war, you know? Like the whole war could be averted, millions of lives saved from diplomacy. So in that way, it's like we should 100% put like cut the amount of resources put into military, defense, offense, power, strength, violence, violent potential energy. It's just stupid. Like, but if you ever saw 1917, the movie.
Oh God, so good.
Yeah, really good movie. But the thing that was most powerful and very, very true to human nature, and especially the masculine stereotype of, you know, the whole message is this like grunt soldier is being sent to a colonel, somebody who thinks very, very highly of themselves, very self-aggrandized, and has put together all this effort and energy and bravado to mount this offensive, and he's basically going to be told by a grunt soldier who realistically this officer never even was. Like, he moves straight into a low-ranking officer, which is already above, technically actually above the highest enlisted officer, but like way, like miles above in like in the arbitrary hierarchy that the military is, but miles above in his own mind, like an enlisted private or whatever. And that enlisted private, like, now that he's a high-ranking officer, is going to say like, hey, all this effort, all this planning, all these delusions of grandeur that you've created, you're going to cut all of that or everybody's going to die. And here's this. And so obviously he would have some hesitation, trepidation about the potential glory lost of not pursuing this offensive. And the guy says like, hey, some men just want the fight. Some men just want the fight. And I think that's what a lot of the military is, but also backed with just a lot of government officials want the funding. There's so much to it, and I think it's a really, really, really corrupt system. I think it's theft on the most widespread level possible. Just the way I've seen the military waste resources, and honestly, anybody who's been in the military and hasn't drank the Kool-Aid will see that there's so much resources are wasted. And if they put like a fraction of that into foreign relations and diplomacy, kind of just focusing on our enemies and seeing what we have in common, mutual agendas we have in common, rather than like a tribalistic, like, they believe in this God, they have this, whatever, like the things that are different. It's like this stupid bullshit that, like, and also like, we were just listening to on that Joe Rogan, Chris Williamson podcast, just like people unite under hate more than love, or it wouldn't put it exactly like that, but basically like outrage is more powerful of a binder, or excuse me, more instantaneous and vivacious of a binder than mutual agreement of like something positive. So I'm not saying that very well, but
It's just like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
like a common enemy is a good way to unify people.
Yeah. So and then if you get people in one of the basic, if you ever read Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, he talks about, he has a chapter of like how to start a cult, and one of the principles of starting a cult is basically a tribalistic mindset of us versus them. And if you get a group together, leading the leader that creates a us versus them mentality and ethos to live by, those people will basically do whatever that the leader says, so as long as it's under the name of going against this mutual enemy. And so I just think it's like social psychological manipulation of the masses. It's kind of like opiate or whatever.
Religion is the opium.
Religion is the opiate of the masses. Same thing with like political tribalism. I mean, it's not even just religion. It's like any type of tribalism is the
Well, in
opiate of the
religion, you
masses.
do make a common enemy. There's the devil.
The devil.
There's Hades. There's whatever.
There's infidels. Whatever. Yeah.
And even a lot of Christian circles, they don't say the devil. They just say the enemy. A lot
That-
of times. I
yeah.
remember hearing that a bunch.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Anyways, so yeah, no, not even really moderate. And not like
No, moderates are the best people to hate,
well, back to what you said about your speculation of how I see the military.
Mm.
I'd love to never shoot a gun again. Like, it's just like a bravado and gung ho bullshit. Because like the only reason to I don't want to say this. If you can prevent, like, there's so much more power in corroboration and diplomacy.
Like
Because
preventing a war.
yeah, like how much if you had a superhero that was like, can you destroy all this? Yeah, sure, cool, boom, death. As opposed to, can you save and rebuild? Like, you save 60 million lives, rebuild cities, rebuild like millions of families, like save this pain and destruction from like the masses. That would be like a really, really incredible, like, one's basically a villain, one's a hero, right? And there's going back again, and I'm gonna end with this because now I feel like I'm going in circles. Like, if somebody could go back and just stop world wars from happening, that would be like the most amazing hero in all history. However many tens of millions of lives lost, billions, trillions of dollars of destruction, damage, resources wasted on violence. But again, at the same time, it'd be like, well, how would you even know that was a hero unless the damage already happened? So I think that's why it's not why it wouldn't be pushed as hard, because there's all these heroics and media pushed through, like, fighting the enemy, but as opposed to making the enemy a friend that's just not as theatrical. So it's not as revered. And I think that's just, I mean, also goes just to the flaw of human nature at its core. And there I go monologue. You sly dog.
You
Got me monologuing. Everyone's super.
No one will be.
die.
Two things I wanted to bring up. Well, I mean, a lot of things. I'm writing down a shitload of stuff. So, you know the movie The Watchmen?
Who watches The Watchmen?
Yeah. So you're familiar with that, like, and how the story goes, how it ends and stuff?
No, because I watched it when it came out,
That's
like,
fair.
however long ago.
That's even better, because then I can tell you how it ends and describe it to you.
Okay.
And you'll be like, oh, wow. And for the record, I'm using the movie ending, not the comic book ending.
Cool.
For any comic purists, I know that, but comics are fine. The ending for the comic was stupid, and changing it for the movie is
All I
way
really
better.
remember is like an awkward superhero sex scene in, like,
Oh, yeah.
something, and it wasn't.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. That song plays when they're fucking.
That's, yeah, it's just, everything about it was like, this is not This is weird.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
It was kind of nowhere. It's definitely in the comic. And actually, for the most part, the movie like is almost the most crazily like respect to the original comic thing. Like they have shots in the movie that are directly panels from the actual comic. But the point was, they did change the ending, but the ending, at least the idea of the ending, is pretty much the same. And it's that basically they determine that killing millions of people around the world in order, and then framing it in a way where it looks like Dr. Manhattan, the god-like being who exists at the time, make it seem like he is the one who did it, would unite the entire world against Dr. Manhattan. And this is at the time of, like, the Cold War. Like, this is the point where U.S. and Russia could easily at any time launch enough nukes to kill everybody on the planet if they go to war. And that's assume what's going to happen. And instead of that, they nuke a bunch of cities around the world by basically imitating Dr. Manhattan's power and using that as nuclear bombs in major cities all around the world to make it look like Dr. Manhattan is doing it. So, like, literally 50 million, 100 million, millions of people die in order to save billions of people. And at that time, that was the first time I'd heard of that type of concept, and it blew my mind. And, like, to the point where there's Rorschach being like, we need to tell them the truth, we need to tell them the truth, and Dr. Manhattan's like, no, that wouldn't work. And he just instantly deletes him. Because that one life, obviously, at least to him, is way more important than... Killing him is more important than telling the truth and undoing what I'm trying to say. If he told the truth, it would have made all these 50 million people, their death be pointless. Mm-hmm. But by lying and killing these 50 million people, you're basically saving every other human being on the planet by that. And, like, that is essentially to say... Oh, I don't remember what the point of that was. I don't remember. Fuck, I forget how that tied into something that you said. But the other thing I wanted to bring up was the whole... You were saying something about, you know, there's a thing to going to war militarily, and there's another thing to preventing a war. And then the preventing is the more powerful. I was thinking of, like the, I don't know, cliche, idiom, whatever. We don't know what the word is. But the idea of a samurai who chooses to not draw his sword is, like, more powerful than one who does. And essentially, it's basically saying you could, if you like a bad MMA fighter who, like, goes out to a bar and, like, some drunk guy tries to get in a fight with him. Yes, it would be powerful to just instantly kick his ass because they totally could. But there's more strength in knowing you could 100% kick their ass and choosing not to. Like, God, yes. I don't know if that... You've heard of that type of, like, idea before. Like, there's the knight who, like...
I think about that all the time. Every day.
Every day?
When I see stupid Gen Z broccoli heads at the gym in their fucking pajama pants with 9 of them on one bench press benching 95 pounds.
I hate people wear pajama pants.
And like taking selfies the whole time. And I was like, I just want to grab 2 5-pound plates and literally smash all of their heads in. And actually, that's not even true. That has nothing to do with my moral uprightness. I'm just like, I just don't want to go to jail. I guess I'll just wait. I could yell at them, but then they'd probably, like, tweet all this stuff, and then the gym would feel like the social pressure of, like, social whatever to, like, ban me and fuck. And then I was like, well, I could, or maybe I should just go to just have my gym at home. That's fine. Then I wouldn't have to deal with these idiots. Anyway, so never mind. I'm not morally upright at all. I just think about the consequences, and I'm like, stupid modernity, stupid civilization. I just want to murder these idiots. Not really, obviously, because I'm not a psychopath.
Let's see, waste from resources.
You were talking about...
Oh, sorry. The whole point of the Watchmen, I now remember, it was just to bring
Excuse
up
me.
that creating enemies and having a common enemies is a better unifier than anything else.
One thing,
Actually, wait, before I jump on that.
Go ahead.
For example, the highest, I don't know exactly how long, but I remember looking up, like, presidential approval ratings and stuff. And the highest a presidential approval rating has ever been since they've been measuring this is George Bush in the month after 9/11.
Oh, of course.
Like, that is the one single time when everybody in America could you agree the president we can get behind him was when we had a common enemy of Al-Qaeda, Taliban, or whatever.
American girls, American guys, they always stand up and salute. Anyways, I one time heard John Maxwell talk at this event.
Who's John Maxwell?
He's an author, speaker. He's honestly pretty corny and cliched, but he does have some good things to say.
He writes books and gives.
He's kind of like the Hallmark Channel of like authors, where it's like it's not like anything that they do or say is like bad or untrue. It's just like, okay, cool, cheesy, corny. But also if you can grandpa art style, eat the meat, spit out the bones, means just like use your own maturity and critical thinking to like pick out good things. From any situation, which Pin, I'll put that as like
that's a good concept for just about anything.
Yeah, I put Pin. I think that's the most profound quality, most useful quality that anybody in their life can try to develop. But John Maxwell, he's a smart guy. He said most people prefer familiar problems to unfamiliar solutions. And that's kind of like the same principle, like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. More or less because fear, most people do most things in their life from like a place of fear. Like I gotta go to job because I'm afraid, or I'm gonna go to job, oh my god. Worked so hard. I'm gonna go to work because I'm afraid if I don't, I'll get fired and then I won't be able to pay my bills and then I'll be homeless or whatever. Or I'm gonna stay with this. Do whatever it is because I'm afraid of the consequences. I'm not going to murder these 8 broccoli heads because I'm afraid I'm going to go to jail. It's fine, you know. It's like what most people base their decision-making process. Like, I'm going to do this or not do this because I'm afraid of the consequences. And if you're familiar with something, then you feel like you have a sense of control of that situation. And fear, by and large, is a sense of not having control in a situation. Because if you feel like you have control in the situation, then there's no reason to be afraid. Literally 0 reason. That's why people are afraid of the dark, afraid of deep water, which is also the dark and deep water is just the unknown. Or
death.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Death. Or honestly, actually, public speaking, you have no idea. There's no way of knowing what millions of people are thinking about you, or what tons of people are thinking about you. And like the social pressure, like what would I do? Who am I? That's also the unknown. You don't even know who you are. Who am I if I don't have approval of the people around me or whatever? Anyways, unfamiliar solutions is scary. Like, even if it is a legitimate solution and you could logically say that, she's like, I've never done that before, it's unknown, so I don't want to because that's scary because it's unknown and I don't know if I can control it or not. But I do have this problem, this like general problem that's been tried and tested or whatever over and over again. So I'll just stick with that because it's comfortable and I feel like I have control in that situation, and I'll just keep the same problems, which is the tribalistic
similar to 2 things we talked about before as
delusional patriotism. Go ahead.
The thing we mentioned about how our mother had the bad relationship with our father, and then in the future when seeing something similar, we associate that. Also, when we talked about the trauma response and the childhood trauma getting whatever, you had this big major thing happen to you, your brain is now programmed and trained, this is how we respond to it. That gets stuck in your head. And then now any sort of other... Because that was the most unfamiliar thing ever. Whatever that trauma was. Because up until that point, you never even conceived that could have happened.
Yeah.
Then that response happens. That gets programmed in. And now you have the familiarity of this is how I can respond. And so that can get more stuck, right?
That makes that even more profound. It's like not even just like a mental level, but like on a deep autonomic nervous system level. Like the body prefers familiar problems to unfamiliar solutions. That's an interesting concept that I think would be supported by the whole premise of the body keeps a scorebook. What an interesting thing interesting can of worms to open up.
This is where we're going. This is the goal here. We're trying to get each other to have different thoughts.
Does like the body, not just the mind, but also the body, in a conscious and subconscious level, prefer familiar problems to unfamiliar solutions. And so does that mean the most difficult thing to do to overcome like the basic animalistic human nature that we have, which is really the only thing that would like distinguish us from animals? I know it says human nature, but I think that's just mammalian instincts, would be to stop, detach yourself from those feelings and emotions, and thoughts, and like see, does this really serve me well? Why do I consider this? Why does this make me feel this way? Where are these feelings coming from? Are they valid or not? Are they actually supporting the principles that I want to like align my identity with? That would mean I have principles that are clearly defined that I want to align my identity with. And if not, I should probably change this and be a little more wary of my feelings, aware of my like volatile, erratic emotions, because maybe they're not really supporting who I want to be. Yeah. Boom. Mic drop. I'm gonna pick that up, obviously. Yep.
Well, this makes sense. So, like, it's easier to go back to the thing that you know or whatever. What's called the devil that you know, or
the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Let's just say, but it's like the devil you know is more comfortable than the devil you don't.
And that could be a reason why somebody might, like, for example, like stay in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Because they're used to that person being in their life, that they're willing to put up with the toxicity versus the unknown of, okay, well, once I've broken up with this person, who fucking knows what I'm gonna go to next? Who do I know that I'm gonna go to next?
Well, like the sense of loneliness, like an aimlessness, identity, or like sense of purpose and clarity you found in like having a relationship. The dependency you had on like your self-esteem, on like your identity attached with this person in the relationship, and then like the absolute like nebulous of potential chaos that would be the dating world. Yeah. And will I just continue the same dysfunctional patterns? I don't know. That's too hard to think about. I'll just like forget about it and drink another beer and pretend like everything's not that bad. Yeah.
I think the thing I just thought about as we talked about that is basically that create the concept, basically how loneliness. I just wrote down loneliness as a killer. Like that was the simplified way of putting it. But like loneliness can fuck you up more than just about damn near anything else. Like being lonely and like for example, like an incel dude, like the most dangerous type of dude is like a dude who never gets touched and starts hating women, and then gets to the point of like, I don't even have a woman in my life, I don't have a family, I don't have any connections, I have nothing to lose. Fuck it, I might as well get it by raping somebody. I might as well molest somebody. I might as well go commit a violent crime. I might as well whatever. Like, I might as well watch anime. Ooh, worst of them all.
Anime is a gateway drug to sexual crimes.
Obviously, just like weed is a gateway drug to literally snorting
fentanyl.
Meth. Oh yeah, fentanyl. Yeah. All it's connected for sure.
Crocodile.
100%.
Weed, crocodile, natural progression.
Yes. No, I was writing loneliness as a killer because if you think about it, like if you do something bad, like let's just think about this. If you do something bad, the punishment is you go to jail. If you do something bad in jail, the punishment while you're already being punished is isolation. Like putting somebody in like solitary confinement is the way they punish people who are in the place where you're being punished for murdering somebody or doing something horrible or heinous. Like that is the only way they can make it worse for you, by putting you by yourself, which is crazy. And something I was thinking about that hit me yesterday, for example. Basically, just one way or another, I ended up spending the night at my brother's house, at his apartment. He's got a couple other roommates. They had people over and stuff. And what I was realizing then is I was in an apartment with probably 8, 9, maybe even 10 other people. And I was realizing I felt more lonely in that moment than if I was back at my house with just me and my girlfriend and our cats. Even if we weren't talking to each other, I would have felt less lonely in that moment than when I was over there and there were other people. Like, a lot of them were doing kind of their own thing. And part of the reason why was, even when I would try and have a conversation with them, it was just really difficult, or they wouldn't talk back, and so it would just be like a hey, and then just bye type of thing.
Which is the Gen Zers who were raised by this is a book.
A book. Yeah,
they're raised by an iPad. Yeah.
Kind of like how this is how everybody does phone, but like in reality, I bet you damn near no young people do that as phone because no one has like the phone that you pick up and there's the speaker and that there. They actually hold it like this.
What do people
like if
like this?
I don't know. Like I've never seen.
Or like
I've never.
Like put my earpods.
Like that's my theory because like,
hey, call me.
like the reason we do this is because like we've had phones that you hold like that and whatnot, and then like for example, like the save button in Microsoft Word is a floppy disk. Like
yeah.
I bet you nobody knows. A lot of young people just know, oh, that's the save button. But the reason it was a save button is because originally was how you saved stuff was put on a floppy disk. Like this telephone is like telephone pickup, and I that's my theory. I've never seen like, and maybe they just don't do any sort of motion with holding the phone to the ear or whatever. Because even more so, like I'm thinking of me. If I'm on the phone, it's my AirPods in my ears, right?
And how many Gen Z people actually call each other?
Oh, right.
Instead of texting, snapping.
That's fair. I
hey,
also
DM me.
Yeah.
Sign language.
I can understand that because I'm kind of awkward over the phone, but also I do know that if I start texting somebody and then I realize after like one or two back and forths that there is going to be at least 10 or 12 more of these that have to happen, I'm just going to call them and be like, we can sort this out in 60 seconds real fast.
Yeah.
Like, that's the time when I would just call somebody anyway.
Yeah. I guess FaceTime. I feel like young people will be more likely to FaceTime than more likely to FaceTime than call.
Yeah. I can respect that because then you can see the body language, you can get more understanding of what they're going for.
Yeah. Man, we diverted real far.
Well, I know, but the point of that was to bring up the loneliness thing, the thing about how, and I think this is something that even Robin Williams said this at one point, and I'm sure he got it from someone else too, but like, I'd rather be by myself, than be in an entire room full of people that make me feel alone, or something like, you feel more alone in a crowded room than by yourself, or something like that.
Being alone, feeling alone in your marriage is like the worst kind of loneliness. And that's just because obviously it's like the celebrity that is like wildly successful and super depressed and suicidal or whatever. It's like, hey, you have all these like semblance of the reward that you should be feeling, or this evidence that should support a reward response, but you're not getting it, of like feeling community, feeling like understanding, feeling connection or whatever, but you're not. And it's a feeling of like, if I have this level of evidence like in front of me that should give this response of feeling this positive outcome, and I don't feel that, I actually then is it even possible to feel that positive thing? Am I doomed to always feel lonely? Am I doomed to always feel unfulfilled? Whatever. Jeff Sandiford, who started Act On Academy, which just look up Jeff Sandiford and Act On Academy. I don't really feel like explaining that. He said, and I think he was quoting somebody else, but I was listening to a podcast of him talking about his life, and he was wildly successful early on in his life, like at 28 years old, this is a while ago, before like internet age, because I think he's in his 70s now, so like he's like 27 or 28 years old, so let's just say in the 70s, and he's worth like $100 million from just business ventures he had, and he was like, is this it? Like, I can do literally anything I want, and like, is there anything else to strive for? Is it because, also this is a Tony Robbins principle of like, happiness is found in progress, not a result, not an outcome. Because if you get to an outcome, it's like, what is my purpose now? But Jeff Sandiford saying when he got to that point, the very profound saying is that the two people that are most hopeless are those at rock bottom, absolute rock bottom, and the ones that are at the mountain peak and realize and think like, is this all there is? There's nothing else. I mean, kind of like everybody has problems, just in different directions.
Everyone has problems, but in different directions. I like that.
Yeah.
The unifying concept of the podcast.
Yeah. It's just like, whatever. homeless former addict on like the dirty streets has money problems, and Warren Buffett has money problems. Like, they're just different degrees. So, and also that brings into a really important thing is like being envious of somebody is always futile. Always futile. Because the feeling of envy only comes from a feeling of like they have an outcome, they have a result, they have a lifestyle, they have a situation that I want and I don't have. And typically that turns into some type of thought pattern as to why that outcome is wrong, or that person gained it through like miserly means, or like through nefarious ways, rather than being like, okay, what does it actually take? That's actually a really profound point that we could discuss in like of like thinking about what do you want, what does it cost to have what you want, and if you thought about what it costs to have what you wanted, would you really want it? So do you actually want what you want?
Like me saying I want to be in shape, but also being like, I don't want to pay the cost of the soreness and the time and all that jazz.
Sometimes I think about like, oh, I wish I didn't want to like be physically competent because it's so much effort and time. And but then I think about like the alternative, and I'm like, I want that so much less. But literally, let's go back to the Ozempic thing. You know, people talking about like body positivity when you're fat, but then when you have a shortcut to losing weight, it's like, oh, actually you guys need to get off your fat asses and do something. So
do something. That's the something.
Yeah. Or just like considering just like that world-class athlete, world-class musician, whatever it might be, like to be,
actually, wait, let me say
Jimi Hendrix,
not to say like, hey, being lazy and like that, like you shouldn't be doing that. You just shouldn't be like saying you're hot shit and you're doing this by willpower. Like, I totally am behind there being a chemical way to get out of it, and like that should be a thing that like, yeah, let's do that shit. But like,
and who's to say like,
let's say what this
10 years from now it comes out that Ozempic causes lymphoma or something like, you never know. Like, that is, everything costs something, so there's no reason to ever be envious, because you have what you have because you paid the cost for what you have. And if you are unwilling to pay the cost to get a result, then you should try to find a way to be content with what you have. And if you are willing to pay the cost, then pay it and get the result.
Everything does have a cost. Like, for example, somebody could be jealous. Like, I would be jealous of somebody who like owns a home, but home ownership comes with home maintenance, property taxes, dealing with HOA type shit.
And even I mean, like, to say home ownership is better than renting a house or renting an apartment, that's
up to you.
A complete debate. It's not objectively better. Sure, you're putting equity into something, but you're also paying taxes. You also have full responsibility for everything that ever goes wrong with it. I mean, in a way, they're both liabilities. Liabilities mean just something that costs, or in this metric, is just something that costs you money. But you rent something, sure, you can't make all the modifications that you'd ever want to, but if something breaks, you call your landlord. They're legally responsible to fix it. They'll mow the grass for you. They take the trash to the dump for you, or whatever. Like, things are simpler, so, and because you pay a lower cost, you have less freedom, but some people just, like, that freedom's not worth it to them. So it's not better by any means. And you pay off your house. Like, you pay off your house, you still have to pay property taxes, you still have to pay water, sewer, garbage, internet, fucking maintenance when the pipes break, pay the electrician when something goes out. Like, I don't know, I'd be actually really curious to know, and not that it is particularly important to know, like, even if somebody's house is paid off, all the bills and upkeep and maintenance that go with it, does that average out to, is that similar or lower or even more than the average person like renting an apartment or renting a flat or renting house or whatever, like, be like, okay, cool, they're built equity in that, and if they want to sell it, they have all this money, but then there's everything costs something is the thing we're getting at. So there's never, so just because everything costs something, jealousy is always futile. It's just like, oh my gosh, these guys, like you see this family at a restaurant, this family at, like that, oh, they look so happy, they look so great, whatever, but like, you have no idea what it costs, what the investment they put into their relationship, to growing as individuals, this pain that they went through to become the type of people that could facilitate a good relationship, and raise a family. And you don't know what kind of stress they're going through right now. You don't know if they're pretending to be happy because they feel the pressure of like needing to be extra happy because they have an American dream or whatever. And then also the opportunity costs of settling down with somebody, as opposed to the potential opportunity of playing the field, and the amount of compromises they had to make as individuals to make the relationship work. It's not, I mean, like, is it better? I mean, that's completely up to debate. No reason to ever be jealous of anybody ever. Is, yeah. I mean, going back to, like, you see some super jacked guy at the gym, but like he probably put a lot of fucking work in it. Maybe he did steroids and he fucked his hormones up for the rest of his life, or whatever.
You see a football player, they're rich as shit. They get to live their life. They get whatever. They get to play a sport, whatever. At age 40, their brain could be completely gone from the CTE, and they could have chronic pain for the entire rest of their lives and whatnot. And they could die at like 45 years old from a brain condition. Like.
Yeah, and
there's
so
a cost that they paid.
This also could easily be perceived, because I totally see like fucking YouTube trolls, you fucking dweebs out there, being like, oh, well then is there ever a point to doing anything ever? Of course, this is not an excuse to just sit on your ass and do nothing, you know, like, it's just checking your emotions to see if what you want is really what you want, because what does it actually cost to have what you think you want, or not quotes, but what you have what you think you want, and are you willing to pay the cost? Do you even know what the cost would be? And if you can figure that out, then you're probably going to understand yourself a little bit more. Like, I'm not willing to pay that cost, or maybe that, and because of that, it's actually not in line with what I really want. So then I'll figure out what I really want and pay that cost. So just be yourself. Pursue what you actually want. Pay the cost you're willing to pay for the outcome that aligns with your principles and your identity. And don't allow the feelings of jealousy to rule your decision making and sense of self, just because it's like a stereotype or an stereotype of what the society says is what gives you value.
And as a wise Ira once said, now is the time to look inward and ask yourself the big questions. Who are you and what do you want? And also I found it interesting when
Did you say Ivor?
Iro?
Oh, Iro. I thought you were saying Ivor, as in like Ivor the Boneless from no, Vikings.
No.
Yes. Yeah, Uncle Iro.
I also found it interesting about when you said about envy being like kind of pointless or not worth it to be jealous and stuff and blah blah blah, because like then it typically turns the negative thought pattern of like, oh, who's this person, why do they deserve this shit, fuck them, blah blah blah.
Uh-huh.
That's the negative. I think then the positive would be you see the person that you basically, the positive becomes when you can see the person who has what you want. But you have to actually know what you want in the first place, what you actually truly want, or is this something that somebody else has told you want, like Sozin telling Zuko the thing you want is honor, pride, and being a part of this family,
being worthy of succession.
Yeah, and so Zuko's living out his entire life for someone else's expectations of himself. I'm sure there's a lot of people who can relate to realizing you're living your life for expectations of most likely parental figures. But the healthy, quote-unquote, envy or jealousy would be you sitting your ass, not knowing what you want to do, not knowing what you want to be, and then once you you either figure out what you want to be. I'd say either by living out the stereotypes and feeling what it's like to be that, and realizing, hey, you don't want this, or you do want this, or you do like this, or you don't, or seeing somebody who triggers that envy response, and if you can be healthy about it and be like, why do I envy this person? And then you can think about what are the things you want to get, and then you can start to figure out what you actually want. Then the next step is, how do you get that? Blah blah blah. Always very difficult. But I don't remember what I was gonna say next. Did you? For that?
Yeah,
you trying to
that
say?
was that. That was that. Oh, thought pin.
Oh, go. I lost my train.
Okay.
I lost my train.
Yeah, so that goes back to Grandpa Art, which I believe we mentioned Grandpa Art before. He's our maternal grandfather. He's 94 years old, and he's super healthy for being 94. He still can get up, walk around.
You said this.
Yeah, either I'm good. Comedic callback to eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't demand too much dissection to understand, like, the same principle. The one who knows the way broadly sees it in all things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're eating a chicken, you eat the meat and spit out the bones. And that chicken is all of your experiences in life ever. There's always things that can be, you can take as sustenance from a situation, if you have the wisdom to not pursue the futile attempt of chewing on the bones. Or it would be foolish to look at a situation and be like, oh, it's all bones or it's all meat, because that's never the case. It just, if you have the opportunity, if you have the wisdom, you have the emotional, mental fortitude to eat the meat and spit out the bones, then you can basically benefit from every situation in your entire life, and you're pretty well unstoppable. That would be to be so strong that nothing disturbs your peace of mind, and which is a cheesy thing I saw on a bumper sticker, but still, it's not necessarily the strength to withstand it, but the strength of mind to see good in every situation, so you are never at a loss. And we've all had people that have tried to tear us down, try to be negative, be critical, whatever. But there's a very powerful line in a 100-some-year-old poem called "If" by Rudyard Kipling, and it's basically outlining certain characteristics that he would like his son to emulate. And one of the things, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. Men doubt you, criticize you, condemn you, judge you, whatever. Is to trust yourself, more or less trust that you have worth and potential. And if something has worth and potential, then it's not hopeless. If you have trust in your value and potential, when people doubt you, when people condemn you, when people try to tell you you're worthless or have no hope or future potential, but make allowance for their doubting too, but basically calm your emotions, have like the rock of believing in your worth and potential, while still having the humility to keep your mind open to, maybe even though this person's intentions are come with enmity, that they may still have something that I could learn about myself, because they have a perspective that I don't. And it doesn't matter what their intentions are, there might be some truth in the matter, even if it's 2%. And if you can, then you can have a 2% positive outcome from that, as opposed to it all being negative, and talking about that situation to your therapist is why that person's so cruel, so mean 10 years later, or whatever. So you can basically grow from that, as opposed to be torn down and weighed down, burdened by that situation. Which is much better than, let's look at every situation and seek only positive situations and avoid negative ones. And this goes back to our archetypal friend, who's in a existential quandary of, he's not in the army, he's not in the relationship, what do I do? Let me just seek positive outcomes, because my sense of my value, self-value, self-worth, self-esteem is really low right now. So what he does yesterday, this was hilarious. So he's at the gym and he texts me. He's like, bro, I'm like looking around at these baddies, but I'm too short. I'm cooked. And then like 30 minutes later, he texts me. He's like, never mind. I got the receptionist number or whatever. And so then later we're at the store and he's like seeing these like cute girls or whatever. He's like, and I'm like, just go fucking shoot your shot. Like, just talk to them, flirt with them. He's like, no. I can't face rejection right now. I can't handle, basically saying, I can't handle a negative outcome. I'm going to end today on a win. Because his perception of getting a girl's number gives him value. And I'm like, no, cut that shit out. That's pussy shit right there. Because the reason it's pussy shit is you are just determining your sense of self, your self-worth on the outcome that somebody else accepts you or not. Somebody else who doesn't know you, doesn't understand you, would really have no reason to give a valid determination on what you're worth or not, and not focusing on the fact that every time you pursue a different outcome, you have the opportunity. Not that you do objectively, just like practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent, but perfect practice makes perfect. But every opportunity, every time you like pursue an outcome, you have the opportunity to learn, correct your mistakes, become more equipped to properly pursue the outcome. And so in this case, he's just trying to figure out, hey, how do I pursue girls? Because he's been in this relationship and had his identity wrapped around this and not been pursuing girls. And which is basically, how do I make a connection with human beings? Because that's like the worst mistake that guys make, I think, when they're trying to pick up girls or whatever, is how do I pick up girls, as opposed to how do I connect with another human being. And every time you try, you have the opportunity to correct your mistakes, to quiet the fear-based motivation and that you might have of making that would keep you from connecting with somebody. Because if you're afraid or anxious about situations, you're not able to see that person and listen and be present with that person, meaning you can't connect with somebody genuinely, because you have no idea who they are, because you're solely focused on your own anxiety and like, oh, will this person accept me because my sense of self-worth is completely wrapped up in their acceptance or not, whatever. You have every opportunity, and all these things are skills, not talents, and skills take repetitions to hone. So rather than focusing on the outcome, focusing on the experience and how you can grow as a person throughout these experiences. And that is how you can be like more or less unstoppable, to be so strong that nothing, strong in your mind and in your heart, woo-woo heart, whatever, that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, because every experience you ever have can be beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Like, even if you're, for example, like, even if you're, like, listening to or watching, like, a think piece or something, or a video essay of somebody who is the exact opposite, completely, you disagree with every single point they make and whatnot, and like you could be like, oh, there's nothing to be gained here because they're all just going to say bullshit that's wrong and I don't agree with, but the positive would be that, oh, this is helping me build my own arguments now, or this is helping me re-solidify and more concrete my own belief in what I have, because I believe this, and now that I'm hearing the opposite of what I believe, I definitely know that's not what I want. Whereas, like, say, you could have a role model, and they could be the role model of everything you want to be, and then you could have another person who also is a role model, but they do everything you don't want to be. And so there's still a positive to gain from that, because you're like, yes, that's who I want to be, and then you can see that is, oh yes, that is clearly who I don't want to be. And then, like, another thing that came to my mind is I still do to a degree, but I used to a lot more. I used to always like defend Joe Rogan podcast against people all the time, especially as I was in college and was making a lot more friends that were a lot more left leaning and a lot more. Well, I feel like a flaw with the left is definitely they're a lot more rigid in who they allow to like be their friend per se. Like, you could have somebody on the left who you agree with 95% of them, but because you disagree on that 5%, you guys will never get along. And that's the stupid view of like, hey, there's still positive to be gained here. And that's why I always like, yeah, Joe Rogan, he has some wild thoughts and stuff, but like, he's so willing to have just about anybody on the podcast, and the type of guest that's on the podcast is pretty much going to determine what kind of Joe Rogan you're going to get. And you can literally just pick if you like the guest or not. You're probably going to like the Joe Rogan you get that day. And if you don't like the guest, you're probably not going to like Joe Rogan that day. Like, he just becomes, like, not to say he doesn't have his own opinions, but or I should say he used to. He's a little bit less like this now, but he definitely used to be really, really, really good at, I'll have on anybody with any opinion, and the personality I will bring out of myself is going to be a type that, if not matches, at least vibes, per se, with the energy, I guess, that I'm getting from my other podcast guests. Like, seeing a Joe Rogan podcast with him and has Ben Shapiro on, they're going to definitely, obviously, talk about a lot of right-wing stuff. Versus if he has on, like, fucking Jim Jeffries.
I don't know what that is, but yeah, sure.
Jim Jeffries is a comedian, but he's definitely a comedian who is very willing to be political and be like, yes, I am on the left. This is it. And not necessarily to the point of I'm virtue signaling, though arguably you could definitely say that sometimes he is that, but like very much in this point of like, you know what, screw it, I have enough money, I've had enough of a successful career at this point, I'm old enough that like I'm not worried about losing audience members. I'm now to the point in my life where I am just going to tell you what my political opinions are at this point. I was kind of keeping it to myself because, like, not saying you shouldn't, but like I was very conscious of like, yes, this is what I believe and whatever, but like I'm not going to tell people about it because I want to appeal to everybody. And now he's like, okay, I'm successful, I've established my life enough, now I can fully be my authentic self and be like, this is me. And not even necessarily in the way of saying this is how everybody needs to change themselves to, but just this is very much my opinion and I'm not like sorry about it per se. And then this goes back to something I was going to say when you were talking, which is something I said before, which is be the truest version of yourself that is appropriate for the situation you're in. In the case of Jim Jeffries, coming up, I need to make money because I have, 5, 6, something crazy amount of kids and a wife to provide for. I'm not going to alienate anybody in my audience, regardless of my opinions. I'm not going to be my truest version of myself in terms of flying my full political flag, because I'm coming from this as a businessman who needs to make money, and I'm a man who needs to provide, so I'm going to make sure I have a mass appeal as possible. Once that's all established in the book, now you're in a new situation where, hey, my family is paid for. All my kids are going to have their tuitions paid for. We're going to have enough of a savings. I have a house. I'm all set up. Now that I'm in this situation, I can be a more truer version of myself, specifically in the political aspect of...
Fuck you money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. That's the simple way. Once you have fuck you money, you can be 100% yourself, per se.
That is an interesting thought experiment. What kind of person would you be if you were completely free
To be whoever you wanted to.
with all the fuck you money that you could never even spend your entire life? And are you really free? Because how many of those qualities, how many of those behaviors that you would exhibit when you have the fuck you money revolve around saying fuck you to other people? Because carrying a grudge against people or people group or an ideology, carrying a grudge in general is like letting somebody or something live inside your mind rent free and fill it up with all the pollution that it could possibly have. So then would you really be free at all? If you had a fuck you money, would you spend all that time and effort to trying to say fuck you to everybody? And if that's the case, then you probably don't really know who you are. Probably not really free to be your true self, because there's no concept of true self outside of paying back the people that you feel need justice, as opposed to pursuing your own principles of your actual identity. Your actual identity that don't have don't have to do with personal grudges or sticking it to, the whole like principle or saying of the best form of revenge is success. And it's like, okay, if you're succeeding just to get revenge on the people that didn't believe in you, or the people that pushed you down, or the people that wronged you. Like, do you really have any real sense of self? Or is it all primarily motivated on your sense of self still being determined by the people that didn't believe in you, or belittled you, or whatever? So then you're not really operating from your own self at all.
There's two things I want to explore with that. One, the money side, and one, the not money side. The not money side I was thinking about because when I was mentioning earlier about how, like, yesterday I was at a house with 8, 9, 10 other people, and I felt more lonely. I felt more lonely than I was wanting to just be home with my girlfriend and our cats. Obviously just one other person, but like I would have felt less lonely in that sense, even if we weren't talking to each other. And I just realized I may have less been me saying I feel less lonely, and I'd feel more comfortable in actually being my authentic self, because I'm thinking of like anytime I did try and talk to any of like your roommates or people coming through, I was definitely presenting a slightly very much different version of myself. And like, oh, this person's out here, and then they say, oh, what are you watching? And I'm like, okay, if I was trying to say like I was watching a dude talking about like a hitman guy explaining some history behind this dude, like basically the story of he has a thing called Mad Lads where he'll just like it Count Dankula.
Yeah, we've watched it.
Yeah. So for context,
Mad Lads.
Yeah, he's a dude. He has a series called Mad Lads where he'll just explore people in history who did some crazy things. And he was watching that, and then one of your roommates passed by and said, "Oh, what are you watching?" And I realized I was trying to describe it, and it was kind of hard for me to describe it. And then I realized not at the time, but I'm thinking now, if I was say explaining that to Kirsten, it would be much more simply. I could be like, oh yeah, this is a show where like it's a guy, he explores blah blah, and I was trying to explain it to your roommate, and I was explaining it badly because I was coming at it from like this new person. How do I explain to somebody who I don't have rapport with already? Blah. And I was thinking versus if I'm with my girlfriend, like I will 100% just be not 100% be my authentic self. But sorry, that was all to say that we were definitely going it from the angle of like, you know, once you have FU money, you can like really become yourself and stuff. But there is definitely like, even without money, there's definitely different versions of yourself that come out, that like different people around you can make you feel nicer than other people. And then the ultimate thing I came to the conclusion of is still at the end of the day, like having financial security, people do act much different once they have that financial security and all that jazz. And then it made me come to the ultimate conclusion, and this is the single sentence I wrote down, is your true self is behind a paywall. In that, like you understand what that means?
Yeah, I don't think I agree with
the concept of a paywall.
Yeah, I just don't think I agree with that.
The reason I am still gonna, I'm willing to have an argument about it, but the reason I still am backing behind that, like I'm still pretty sure that is a true thing, is because even if like as soon as you get the money and then you change, even if that isn't your true self, like the fact that the money allowed you to do that and then realize, oh, this isn't the real me, and then come back to whatever, and then try and find the real you, that still at the end of the day is the real you. Like, even it could be the real you is the person who has money, does whatever the fuck he wants, or the real you is, oh, I'm stuck in this thing because I don't have any money, I'm having to rent, I'm having to blah blah blah, oh my god, I have all this money, now I bought a house, now I'm a homeowner. And then after going through all that, you then realize, oh, now that I am a homeowner, I realize that actually renting is better, at least for me, that is actually what I want now that I've experienced homeownership. And then you go back to then renting, and now you're back where you started from, you're a renter, but now you've gone from, oh, I am renting, but I really want to be a homeowner, this isn't me, to then, oh, I'm renting, and this is definitely what I want to be because I have been a homeowner. I have had that FU money and done all that stuff, and I didn't like it as much as what I had before, which is now, and now you really do appreciate where you started from. And that's actually the circle of storytelling. That's how most storytelling works in terms of movies and TV and stuff.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
So what you wanted was right next to you all the time.
Yeah. That's really the 8 parts of the story, actually. I had to learn it in school.
I think your true self is on the other side of a paywall is an oversimplification.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be part of the progression. But I think that's
only true because we live in a capitalist society. Like, if, for example, if we lived in, like, a communistic dictator or whatever, the true self isn't behind a paywall, it's behind a government structure. Like, if the government has all the power, then that's where it is. Like,
that sounds like something we should get into next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This could definitely go off on a lot.
Yeah.
And also that does go to a thing that I do want to say of the reason I can be so criticalistic. The reason I'm so skeptical about capitalism and can easily point out all the problems of it is because it's the system I have been in the longest. And so therefore it's really easy for me to see
your whole life.
Okay. Same thing.
Longest suggests like another thing that
I know it does suggest that, but
anyways,
still the point of it was I've never lived in a dictatorship, and obviously like if I came from North Korea per se, it'd be really easy for me to point out all the problems of a dictatorship because I've lived in it and be able to come as capitalist thing and be like, oh, this is so much better. And in a capitalistic thing, it's really easy for me to point out all the problems and stuff. The problem that I'm coming to, and I forget who said it or who heard it from, but they basically said something of like, capitalism is the shittiest form of government we have, except for all the other ones we've tried. Something to that effect.
Okay, yeah.
Like, yeah, it sucks a lot, but at the same time, we haven't as human beings ever been able to successfully pull off anything better. So like at the end of the day. Sure. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks, and I will agree with that, and I do think it should be better, and there are ways to improve it that are very easy to do and or should be easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I'll still take this system than like other systems in other countries where like you could legitimately go to jail for like something you post on social media.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
I only made sure to make that point because that was something that's been on my mind this last week or so.
Well,
there was one final thing I wanted to bring up.
One final thing.
Jack and Jill Reacher is what I wrote down. Because this thing goes back to playing to the stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to speak real quick from 100% point, not 100%, but a very strong point of ignorance, and to say I'm going to make wild assumptions on the show Jack Reacher without ever actually watching a full episode.
Sorry, are you talking about the Tom Cruise? Because that's Jack Reacher. Or the Alan Richter
The show, because I said episode.
Okay, so yeah, that's just called Reacher.
Oh, excuse me then. My bad. See, well, there you go. That's that is how ignorant I am. I didn't know it was just called Reacher.
Yeah.
Okay, Reacher the show. So I saw it and like my immediate assumption about it was like, oh, this is a pretty simplified, relatively cliche, yeehaw, militaristic, hoo-ah type of show. The main character guy he's playing the stereotype of the big macho alpha man who like is also noble at the same time. He'll always do the right thing. He'll always like be the tough guy and be like the leader and whatever, and basically the alpha that like people should be striving for essentially. To a flaw, but also at the same time, those type of shows and whatever should exist because like there's an audience for that for sure, and it can be done good, and it's not necessarily done terribly. It's done well enough that like the natural flaws are like, oh yeah, of course that's a natural flaw of what I'm gonna get. That's the quote unquote the price you pay for getting to watch a machismo thing. You go to watch 300, you get the fuck yeah, whatever, and the price you pay, quote unquote, is realistic storylines and dialogues and stuff like that. Whatever, who cares? If you're getting what you're getting. And then Jack Reacher is that, and then from what Marshall has described to me, there's a female character that comes around season 2. I'm gonna call her Jill Reacher, because in my mind, she is supposed to be the girl version of Jack Reacher, where I'm this girl, but also I am an alpha male, because I am tough, I am a leader, I can kick anyone's asses.
And I can dodge bullets from 20 feet away.
I can dodge bullets. You could even then go the extra mile of saying that she's a feminist thing of, she's the girl who can do everything better than all the men, because I don't need no man, I'm better than any man, and whatever.
And again, if men are shooting at me from 20 feet away, I can just...
Yeah.
And then grab my gun, boom, 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 kill them all, of course.
And even if there's a guy who gets in within close combat range of me, and he's got me by like 80 pounds of muscle, I will still kick his ass.
Yeah.
And all that jazz.
I can get punched in the face 10 times by him and just shake it off.
Just
be like, that's all you got, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lean 120-pound female, but I can take this 280 beating.
And I am coming at it from a male-female aspect, but it is literally the same aspect of, say, I was this Jill character, he is the male henchman, and that'd be like if I beat him in a fist fight. Like, if I were to beat him, I'd have to be smart about it and think about where I'm striking. I'm not going to beat him a straight-up, like, I'm going to hit you hard and knock you out type of thing. I'm going to beat you in a, I dodged your swing in a way that used your momentum to push you forward and trip you onto your whatever, so I could hit you in a weak spot that disabled, like, your arm or something like that.
Do you remember sometime in high school, I was, like, really into Fight Club, and it was in the kitchen at Mom's house. I'm like, hey, Derek, punch me in the face.
I don't remember that, no. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. That does sound like something you would have done. I don't, like, remember that.
You punched me in the face several times. I'm like,
I did.
Interesting.
That surprised me. I would have thought, like,
it was in high
hand.
It was in high school. It was just a while ago.
Okay.
Also, we were much closer to the same size at that point.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that. And then also the thing, and he was describing that to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like your stereotypical Mary Sue thing. And then he described to me the scene of, like, and then it becomes, not only is it Mary Sue female insert character basically being, I'm going to be a stereotype and not an archetype. Not only that, but then it also doubled down on the stupid, silly,
sadism.
What we call, it's not only sadism, but also, like, the negative version of what I would describe as Marvel humor. Where it's like, where she kicks the guy's ass, he's bleeding on her fridge, and she's like, oh, get out the way, so she can get her milk for her Fruit Loops, and then eating her Fruit Loops, like, while, like, kicking a guy in the face.
While while he's, like, dying from multiple gunshot wounds.
Yeah.
That he sustained after shooting at her from 20 feet away. But, of course, she just had to, got my gun, boom, boom, boom. You're a professional hitman. Obviously, you can't shoot because I'm Mary Sue. Jill Reacher.
Yeah, that's what I call that.
Yeah.
And then obviously this is the woman example, but, like, it's not even like a sexism thing. It's literally, because then there's also the villain, and then the villain is just unnecessarily over the top cruel for, like, no silly reason, just because it's like, hey, not only am I bad, but I'm really, really bad, and because you've propped up both your male and your female. You propped up your male hero as the tough badass who is, like, can take it all, and now you have this woman who you now need to prop up above him to then be like, not only is she tough and badass, but since she's a girl, she gotta prove herself more, so now she needs to be even crueler and whatever. And now because the girl version that had to top the already over-the-top male had to top him, now you have to have a bad guy who's worse than both of them, and so now you have to put him up even higher and make him even more unnecessary, not silly, but, like, unnecessarily cruel, evil.
Theatrically cruel.
Like, and that becomes the problem of what I'm going to call, you're playing your stereotype and not your archetype. Like, or when an archetype becomes a stereotype, I guess, would be the way of saying it. And, like, you already were starting off where your lead was already a bit too over-the-top cheesy, and then you introduce another person that not only had to be his level, but then because you're coming at it from a woman perspective, and now you think she needs to prove herself even harder, you had to crank her up even more. And then once again, when you have both of your protagonists cranked up hella, the only way the villain can be a threat is if they're cranked up even more, and then you run into the problem that the Marvel Cinematic Universe came into, where they just had to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
All right, Marvel humor, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the 100% that's how that show goes, because Reacher's definitely not, like, the noble guy. Like, they commit so many crimes trying to administer justice. Like, so many people are denied their basic human rights and, like, rights to a trial, rights to an appeal, right, like, basic, like, criminal justice proceedings that they go through, and it's supposed to be justified because what, like, their boss's boss is doing is so inhumane or whatever, or like, oh, they're trying to save the girl, save the damn
boss's boss and moderate, the ultimate evil.
Yeah.
Everything is justified against the moderates.
That's a play or a callback. Not a callback because we haven't really mentioned it. He did mention the moderate earlier to this thing that Joe Rogan posted on his Instagram a few days ago of, what's the guy's name, dude?
John Cleese.
John Cleese, basically.
From Monty Python.
John Cleese from Monty Python. In the 90s.
I think 70s.
No, you said it was 30 years ago.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So in the 90s, talking about like the dangers of extremism, and yeah. Anyways, yeah. Anyway, hey, we should wrap this up. I think we've been going for almost 2 hours.
Very possibly. Oh, wait, no, what's the drawing? That's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible.
I don't know what that is.
Joe Rogan says it a lot. At one point, not important that.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a good point to wrap up. I just want to double check my notes in case there was one little tiny thing that like. Oh yeah, the final thing, because it's related to what we just said.
Final thing.
This even more proves the point of what I was saying, where, when your archetype becomes a stereotype, it gets you get really easy to predict, and sorry. So me having not seen a single episode of Reacher was able to describe 3 characters, the problems on it, the potential problems that causes the show, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody who's seen the show then immediately says that is 100% how it goes. So without even watching the show, I could describe 3 characters because they are stereotypes. And there is still, to some degree, a positive of that, because if you do have characters that are really simple to understand, you can have a more mass appeal, and people can grasp on them quickly. And then once you have that grasp, then you have the rapport to then maybe explore some other things by having them develop as a character, and then they go from becoming characters to then real people, or from stereotypes to archetypes, I guess. And an archetype would be a stereotype that is more complex, more willing to develop, less rigid, more willing to listen to somebody else's opinion, more willing to take the criticism but still be confident in who they are, to move forward with what they're going to do, but still understand the criticism itself is valid.
Yeah. And of course, Jack Reacher has to hook up with whoever the female protagonist of the season is. So he just did that in the episode I was watching. And it's kind of always the same, which is really funny. It's like the law enforcement officer who's like kind of badass, but his masculine energy brings out her feminine energy, and they're in the middle of the conflict, and like, oh no, we shouldn't do this because we need to focus on the mission. But I'm just so crazy about you and your hot body, Reacher. And she's like, just this once, and then it's like whatever, and then she says something. Usually it's something like fuck you, and then they fuck. Like, she's still got to be the sassy one or whatever, which. This 3rd season, and they've done the exact same thing. I'm actually really curious, because the second to last episode of the season, I don't know, but it'd be interesting to know if in the 1st and 2nd season, if he also hooked up with the female protagonist of the season in the second to last episode before like the final.
Oh, like if they
final
keep it
boss.
the exact same structure.
Yeah, the same structure, like to the final boss, maybe just to like poke at like the masses, be like, you guys are fucking sheep. We're doing the same thing with different colors, and you're still engrossed. Same story, different colors.
Kind of like how in Game of Thrones, you would always know that episode 9 is when all the shit's gonna go down. Like the second to last episode of the season is when everything bad happens.
Maybe that is just a
well, first season, episode 9, Ned dies. Second season, Battle of Blackwater Bay. Third season, The Rains of Castamere, the fucking Red Wedding.
Red Wedding.
4.
Wow, I'm so amazed that you have this categorized in your mind to just recall them.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
4 is I think that's oh shit, I don't remember what happens before. I think it's Hard Home. Either that or 5 is Hard Home. Oh, I know. I think 4 is the Battle of the Wildlings, hitting on the wall.
Okay.
I believe 5 is the big one. Is Hard Home. The White Walkers reaching the Wildlings and the Merlin's problem. 6 is the Battle of the Bastards. 7 is the big scene where they fly up and fight the White Walkers with the dragons, and then the White Walkers get the dragon at the end. And then the second to last of 8 would be the Bells, when Dany burns King's Landing.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, sorry, that was all to say that.
That is, I'm so impressed. I mean, I've watched Game of Thrones twice, and I couldn't recall any of those things.
I enjoyed that show a lot, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good one. But anyways.
Yeah, so that is all we have to say about that. And you ready for our ending?
Oh, yeah. Well, till next time. Remember, God made you special. He loves you very,
Very
much.
much.
Goodbye. Fuck yeah.